Hey, it's Clayton Olson, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the 7 core beliefs that allow you to create the love that you want in this lifetime. Now, how did I come up with these beliefs? Observation primarily, as well as observation in my own life of noticing the different shifts that have occurred when I've gone from places of feeling maybe not a high level of acceptance for myself to feeling much more safe, secure, and loved. And looking into my clients' lives and working with them through dialogue to excavate some of these beliefs that have allowed them to make the connections and create the type of love and lives that they want. This is a list where each one of these is an invitation for you to imagine, what would my life be like? What will my life be like when I'm able to see life through this lens? If I was looking for evidence in my life that these beliefs were true, how would that make a difference in the way that I relate to myself, in the way that I show up in life, who I'm being, and also how I'm connecting with people? So you can imagine that we're in some ways going to, let's say, a sunglasses hut right now, and we are giving you different glasses to try on and allow them to color your world through to see what shifts, what becomes different. Just one thing before we dive in. If this is your first time on my channel, please click the subscribe button below this video. That way you can get notifications whenever I release a new video on personal development, relationships, or love. All right, so the first belief that attracts the love that you want is life happens for me, not to me. Now, this one's a really powerful one because what it actually does, what it's illustrating, is it's illustrating a shift from victim consciousness. Life happens to me. I am an effect of life. And it allows you to be in a place where when you look at that life's events are happening for you, you can begin to metabolize tragedy. You can metabolize loss. You can see problems that maybe are occurring as mountains. You can see them as challenges or lessons or curriculum that life is giving you so that you can move forward to the next level. Life happens for me, not to me. This allows one to allow life in many ways to have your back. It's presupposing that life is delivering you things in service of you. No matter what it is, no matter what it looks like, it's actually in service of your growth. It's not designed to hurt you or hold you back. This completely shifts the way that we operate in life, the way that we're able to take risk, the way that we're able to risk connection and risk our heart when we believe that no matter what happens, life is happening for me, not to me. All right, let's talk about number 2. Number 2, the right people want the real me and can handle my real emotions and expression. So many times when clients come to me, I see the opposite happening on some subtle level. One might think that they're too much. One might think that the way that they have been or just who they are as a person is too much to handle for other people. If I was to be myself, if I was to be fully me, somehow I would be abandoned, alone, I wouldn't have community, I would no longer belong. Now, in some ways, that is a very valid and real concern. If you can relate to that and know that you're not alone, I think this is part of being human. We believe that our authentic power, our authentic total alignment in some way would actually allow us to lose everything. But the belief here, what this one's pointing to, is that actually the more that you come into alignment, the more the right people begin to show up in your life. The right business partners, the right friends, the right partner. When you come into more alignment and you trust that the right people can handle the real you, you start to look for evidence of that in your life, and allows you to be free to be more of who you are rather than trying to hide it. Okay, number 3, all parts of me actually want the best for me and want to see me succeed. Now this shifts the focus from the outside and it actually looks on the inside. If I knew that there was not a self-sabotaging part within me, that there was no malicious part, no part that existed within me that was actually trying to destroy my life, that was trying to somehow hold me back in some evil, malicious way, but rather that whatever it is that I'm feeling, whether it's anxiety, whether it's fear, whether it's anger, are all emotions that are actually designed to be in service of my growth, in service of me protecting myself, and they're actually looking out for me. Now, sometimes these parts might have ways of behaving that are less than ideal, or the means they carry out their intention aren't always the most beneficial, But that's a very different way of looking at our internal system than to think that there's some part of us that's against us. So the question for you is, if you knew without a shadow of a doubt that all parts of you, all the things that you experience, no matter what it is, those parts of you that you might feel like you can't accept, if you knew that actually they were there on your side, working for you, how would that shift the way that you were able to allow yourself to be with that feeling? Or how would that just shift your experience of yourself when you're in situations that are difficult? So look out from that as an invitation and just see what begins to change. All right, and the fourth belief is there is no going backwards, only forwards. It's actually impossible to go backwards in life. I see this happen with divorces, with breakups. I see this happen with people that I'm working with who are entrepreneurs, where if something fails, something they're working on that they've invested a bunch of time in, suddenly falls apart, that somehow they're back to square one, or somehow they've taken all these steps backwards in life. Now, not only are they dealing with maybe the dissolution of a dream that they had, a partnership that they had, but they're also dealing with the weight of the negative judgment about the thing that occurred, thinking that somehow they lost everything, and now they're back to square one, starting over. That's actually impossible if we look at the whole picture. In one very small sliver of reality, we can say, okay, well, there's a measurement. You went backwards in terms of money. You went backwards in terms of maybe you had a relationship and now you don't have a relationship. But if we look at the full picture of what's actually occurring, it's impossible to lose everything. It's impossible to actually go backwards fundamentally. What can't be taken away from us is our wisdom, is our experience, is the knowledge that we've gained through that, is the pain that we've gained through losing that, and how that marries into our intelligence and our wisdom. And so we can't actually go backwards. We're always moving forward. And even when something happens that's unexpected, we can be with that in a way where it's actually a new evolution or a new chapter that's opening. And I know that's easier said than done, but again, the invitation is just to pop this open as a perspective and see how this might shift any circumstance you're in where you're feeling like you've lost something and you're back to square one. How this might begin to detangle the negative judgment that you have around yourself in your particular circumstance. The next belief, people realize I am creating my experience. Now, I might not be responsible for the events that occur in my life. I might not be responsible or necessarily literally at cause of something that happens. However, I am fully responsible, 100% responsible for my interpretation of what has occurred in my creation of that. When we can begin to separate our interpretation from the event that occurred, we move into a place of self-authorship. We move into a place where we can say, okay, if I am creating my experience, if I am having an unwanted negative experience that I feel stuck in, that I feel lost in, there is a way for me to discreate it and then be able to create a different experience of whatever happened out there in life. This moves us into a place of authorship. This moves us into a place of being responsible for our lives. This moves us into being and looking to ourselves as a coach, as a mentor. It moves us out of victim mentality, which can keep us stuck, which can keep us under the weight of the circumstances that occurred. And it begins to open up the door for us to create freedom around something that we don't feel we can change outside of us. And ironically, when we move into that place of being able to change our internal experience about an event, oftentimes what happens is the whole way the event has occurred outside of us begins to shift. The meaning around it shifts. Sometimes the events themselves actually begin to shift to reflect this new way of seeing the situation. It can really seem like a miracle at times when this occurs. And I want to say that that is truly what coaching is about, is helping you dive into and see how you are creating your life, how you are creating your experiences, so that you can begin to create something that is more in alignment with what you want, rather than living in a place of reactivity and under ancient limitations that applied to a younger self, but don't apply to your current self. So if that's something of interest to you, I want to encourage you to email me. My email's below the video in the description box, and you can always just send me an email, introduce yourself. The next belief is I am whole and complete. I don't need anything to be complete. What this belief does, if we just were to follow what happens when we stand in that place and look out, I know for me, it has me begin to realize that I have a lot to offer. I have a lot to offer the relationships in the context that I engage in. And that because I have a lot to offer, I'm not going into these engagements, I'm not going into relationships from a transactional standpoint, meaning I'm not looking to get something from them. I'm not trying to solve some type of existential problem that is occurring in my mind by getting someone to love me. Because if I'm trying to get someone to do something and I'm looking at my relationships as primarily a place to take from, to fill my wholeness and completeness need, the relationship becomes transactional, and I move into a place of actually trying to control the relationship rather than allowing it to take a form. So from the belief of I am whole and complete, relationship has an opportunity to flourish and turn into something that might be even greater or better than what we can imagine or even what we want. So I am whole and complete. The invitation is to look out from that place. What does that mean to you? And how will you know when you're living from that place? What will be different around you? How would your relationships occur to you? All right, the next belief that I want to talk about is love is my birthright. After working with individuals for a while, what ultimately begins to happen through dialogue and through them self-reflecting and getting more clear on the truth of who they are is they start to realize that love is something they are born into and something that they are created of and are. Which means there's, again, no more trying to get love. There's no separation from love. There is no calculations around whether you're being punished by life or rewarded by life based on whether you feel love or not. Love being your birthright and just realizing that as a foundational principle actually allows you to experience and create it without needing to go create it outside of you. Now, that's not to say you need to be alone or that you should be alone. It is just to say that we approach relationship differently then. We don't approach relationship thinking that that is the only place that we get to experience love. It is one avenue in which we get to create and dance with love in a different form, but it's born of a desire rather than born of a need. Like, I need to go do this in order to have that happen. No, love is my birthright. I enter into relationships and I get to play now. I get to follow this desire and create something beautiful with somebody. It takes the desperation out of it. It takes the angst out of it, and it allows one to show up and once again play from a place of feeling whole and complete, of assuming they are whole and complete rather than feeling incomplete and trying to fill a void. All right, and I'm going to throw another one in there as a bonus because I think this one's super important, and it came up while I was excavating some of these. And the belief is this: others are on their own journey, and it means nothing about my value. People are going to have their reactions. People might break their integrity. People might walk away from us. People might be abusive or judgmental, but it means nothing about my value. It means nothing about my inherent worth. How often are we in situations where we make someone else's behavior mean something about us? That if I was just different, if I just did something differently, or I thought about myself differently, or I said this differently, then I could change that person and they wouldn't be treating me the way that they are. And they're treating me this way because of who I am, not because of who they are. Notice how that is a massive overstep in taking responsibility, right? Taking responsibility for someone else's bad behavior. Now, I get it on one level. We want to be able to watch our environments and be relational and take feedback and be able to adjust based on other people's feedback. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about is when suddenly we make somebody else's character mean something about our value, and then we think that we need to change in order to fix them or change them. This is a really destructive pattern. What this belief does when you can allow someone else to be on their own journey is we can step outside of the guilt, we can step outside of this disempowerment, we can let go of what's not in our control, and we can actually allow people to have their own experiences without us trying to shapeshift and distort ourselves to get in the way of that, to change them. We can stop trying to heal them. We can let go of relationships that aren't working. We can actually let go of the toxic hope that we think if we change ourselves enough, that person's going to change. The toxic hope keeps us in relationships where we think, well, if I just crack this puzzle that's happening within me, then suddenly I can make this healthy. So this belief is about creating freedom. It's about trusting that other people are on their own spiritual journey and that you are on yours, and you can have yours and you can own yours, and they can have theirs and own theirs, and that we don't have to meddle in business that isn't our own. So those are the 8 beliefs that are core to attracting the love that you want. I'd love to hear what you think about them. How I work with people is through dialogue, and we look at these beliefs. We look at the beliefs that are the underpinnings of the reality that they want to live into. And we're also looking at the beliefs that are the underpinnings of the reality that you're currently creating. And the tricky thing about beliefs is they don't actually occur to us as beliefs inside of our mind. They occur as reality. They occur as what reality actually is. And so the art of working with people in this territory where we're shifting the way that you see yourself, the way that you see life, the things that you believe about life, is we're bringing to your conscious mind the different decisions that you're making about life, about yourself, that are largely unconscious, and restoring choice to you in a way that you can begin to drop the lies that are limiting you, that have been born from some past self. You can begin to step into alignment with the version that you want to be, that gives you much more access to creating what you want. So if that sounds fascinating and you'd like to have a conversation about what that might look like in your life, I want to encourage you to click the link below this video. You can fill out an application, or feel free just to email me. Let me know who you are, what's going on with your life, and if it seems like a fit, we can hop on a call and talk about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.